Hello YouTube, I hope everybody is safe. I want to talk about UFOs today and about a very interesting testimony. In 2010, several Ukrainian pilots who had previously served in the Soviet Air Force revealed very interesting details about secrecy surrounding the subject of what we call UFOs. It's secrecy, fear, censorship, you name it. After years of research, I find that such secrecy is prevalent in other armies too, not only those of totalitarian states. But such revelations are important and are historical in essence, because with the passage of time, we lose eyewitnesses from the 20th century to one of the most important and mysterious phenomena on our planet. Those who had interviewed Ukrainian pilots back in 2010 for the newspaper Rivne Post mentioned that it is hard to believe, but until recently pilots were strictly forbidden to talk about unidentified flying objects, incomprehensible and unexplained phenomenon. There was even an instruction which clearly suggested what should and should not be done in case of, for example, UFO detection. And I mentioned this instruction or instrukция in Russian in my other videos, but here's what they say. Actually, then in the late 1970s, there was not even such a term, said one pilot, instructor of the air squadron, who asked to be called Gennady. The memo determined the order of actions when encountering anomalous phenomena. That's how they refer to UFOs. And it was noted, do not come into contact with the object, do not show initiatives for approach, do not succumb to provocations, stop radio communication and continue to calmly perform your task. Personally, I have never encountered such anomalies, but my friends have, and I have no reason not to believe them. Gennady says that a similar fact occurred at the beginning of the winter of 1978, when General Vyalkov subordinates from Ryazan were in the air. The planes lined up in battle formation, and then suddenly a strange body, unlike anything else, began to hover over each vehicle. First it hung over the leader, then in turn over each crew, and it's all in motion. It hangs for 30 seconds and moves to the next airplane, as if looking closely. More than one or two people saw this body, about a dozen people. And then this object, apparently piloted, abruptly ascended and disappeared from view. Vyalkov radioed the incident to Earth, but when the crews landed, the general and his subordinates were strictly forbidden to tell anyone about the incident. Gennady also recalled another incident that occurred during his service near Irkutsk. It's a Russian city in Siberia. A military crew sits down at the Belaya airfield and watches as an object hangs in the air on the landing course, illuminating the strip with a bright searchlight. The crew reports this to the ground command and hears the dispatcher's response. We don't see anything on the radar. After that, the object disappears, the crew sits down and is ordered to remain silent. Everything related to UFOs and other inexplicable things went to the State Security Committee of the Soviet Union, or KGB. Such information was classified as secret, top secret. Explanations were taken from eyewitnesses, a non-disclosure agreement was signed, and materials were sent to the archives. Not only military pilots told about this to the Ukrainian newspaper Сегодня. Once in 1972, we were flying to Omsk, and somewhere beyond the Urals, we noticed a bright object moving north in the sky, revealed famous pilot Boris Kachuro, personal pilot of Vladimir Shcherbitsky, Ukrainian Communist Party leader. The crew of the Tu-104 aircraft coming towards us also saw this object, and like us, reported to the ground command. If it was seen by both crews, and this is not 2 people but 8, then this could not have been imagined by all of us. But the dispatcher replied that there was nothing on the radars. Well, the KGB then imposed a taboo on all the information. In the 1970s, those who remember, such an ideology was imposed. There is no sex in the country and no UFOs. And the guys from the An-24 aircraft near Dnipropetrovsk saw some object, but the KGB personnel kept calling them in, and they, the pilots, were not happy that they let it slip that they saw UFO. Former space technology pilot Oleg Prus noted, pilots who witnessed UFOs risk losing their jobs. They were sent for a medical examination, recognized mental abnormalities, and dismissed. People hid the truth, fearing for their future. Now, let me stop here for a second. How much different is the reality for Western or other pilots? They see what we call UFOs in the sky around them, but are afraid to report for similar reasons. Why are the debunkers of all stripes given a free hand to belittle, to jeer at observations of experienced pilots? Why? Well, let's get back to Ukrainian pilots. In addition to UFOs, pilots also observe rare natural phenomena in the sky. For example, halo, several moons and suns. The veteran of Ukrainian aviation, Alexei Zakharevich, said that once his An-10 aircraft on the approach to the city of Adler almost touched the wing of a powerful water tornado. It rose 50 meters away from us. It would have been closer, that would be the end. And there were 112 passengers on board. Experienced pilot Oleg Dubovetsky recalled how a Tu-134 aircraft on duty from Noyabinsk got into a turbulence of clear sky phenomenon. And he says, the night, the stars are clearly visible, everything seems to be quiet, and the plane shakes so much that I won't forget for a long time. The unique phenomenon was twice noticed by a Boeing commander, Alexander Ignatiev. The so-called silvery clouds appear only at sunrise, as if a thin shiny web is thrown into the sky, a bright sight, and science hasn't solved it. And I talk about silvery clouds in my other videos and books. It's a very strange phenomenon. Even cosmonauts noticed it from the space, and it's not explained. It's incredibly, it's fascinating. If I can, I'll do a video on it. But let's get back to the pilot. At one time in Zhuliany, near Kiev airport, one of the 2 female pilots in Ukraine, Lyudmila Petrash, worked as a squadron commander. And so, her crew once happened to see a UFO at the exit of the airport area. For 5 whole days, Luda was dragged around by the authorities, interrogating about what she saw, what she did, trying to catch her on some inaccuracies, as if she made everything up, said her colleague. Looking at these ordeals, the testimony was taken away by the KGB people, and the doctors took up examination of the mental state of the entire crew. Well, the air squadron vowed not to report something in the future if they see something like that. Well, maybe they saw something, or maybe not. That would be their approach, to say, well, we don't know. Maybe we did see something, maybe not. And another of the pilots, also on conditions of anonymity, recalls that Aeroflot had an order obligating eyewitnesses of anomalies to immediately report them to the security officers. According to the pilot, his friends who watch UFOs fully tasted the charms of this communication with the KGB and the damage it caused to their nerves. Now this person works on Western equipment, and the ceiling he was given is 10,000 meters. He cannot fly above that because of what he reported before. But what about Ukraine today, free of the shackles of the Soviet rule? Recently, he also encountered a UFO in flight. My reaction is normal, but everything happened so quickly that I was a little taken aback, says the pilot. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something, an object that shot past our plane from the port side like a bullet. We have instruments that show other aircraft on screen, but they did not record anything here. And the co-pilot delved into the documentation, so he didn't notice anything. But even if I had noticed, nothing would have been reported to the ground command by us. We would have been suspended from flying if we did. 2 months ago, the crew of business aviation craft witnessed the appearance of another object over western Ukraine at a speed of under 900 kilometers an hour. Somewhere outside of Lviv, our plane was overtaken by something similar to a saucer, says the pilot. Easily bypassed us and rushed forward. The onboard equipment did not record any deviations, and the dispatcher did not warn about a dangerous approach to another aircraft. We thought maybe it was the meteorologist who launched the probe and it ascended to 9 kilometers. But the weather service did not launch any probes that day. When asked by Сегодня newspaper in 2010 whether our special service is currently tracking information about UFOs, that meaning Ukraine, the SBU, or Ukraine's Intelligence and Counterintelligence Service press center, did not answer. Media center decided, the security agencies media center did not want to answer. Alexander Skibinetsky, former deputy chairman of the SBU, told Ukrainian journalists, I will disappoint you, but I've never heard of any UFOs and so on during my work in the KGB, that's what he said, and after that in the SBU. We didn't do that. Perhaps other structures were involved, but not the special services. Alexander Nizdoля, former chief of staff of the head of the SBU under Soviet Union, mentioned that materials about anomalous phenomena were sent to the KGB, where the information was encrypted and it was not subject to disclosure. The pilots were afraid that they would be declared schizophrenic and written off from the service, so they were silent. I want to add something here. Well-known Russian newspaper Komsomolskaya Pravda, I often mention it in my videos. I know the science editor, and they produce a lot of interesting materials. Well, anyway, this newspaper interviewed top Russian experts in 2019 after the storming of the Area 51 ideas gained support among some people in the United States. Well, the newspaper turned to Russian specialists, for whom working with human contactees with alien intelligence is part of their profession. Here's what a member of the Russian Academy of Natural Sciences, a psychiatrist and psychologist with 30 years of experience, Igor Solentsev, here's what he said. I've seen people who have witnessed contact with something unidentified, but there is evidence of perfectly healthy, repeatedly checked by medical commission, people like pilots. Well, is there evidence like that? Ask reporters. Yes. He said, there is a true phenomenon, which pilots in the air and technicians on the ground, they see it. And there are new ideas. I want to know the truth. We want to find out. Well, non-hallucinatory objects should be studied closely by scientists, first of all, so that there are no mass pandemics. Real unidentified objects are recorded, by the way, by scientists. But as for accurate information, they do not give it out. They classify it. This is what the Russian expert said in 2019, and things are no different today. UFOs are still classified and pilots are reluctant to describe their experiences. Well, some do after their retirement. That's where things stand. And by the way, I will describe more of Silence of Revelations about contactees that he had professionally observed in some future video. What's important is that this top Russian scientist mentioned that pilots see UFOs, so do technicians, and that there's no hallucinations. They know what they're seeing. We should pay attention to it so we don't have mass psycho pandemics in the future. And he also, what's very important to me, he said that, yeah, scientists, they record unidentified objects, but they don't want to give out accurate information. They classify it. That's how it is in Russia, and I'm sure it's the same in the United States, United Kingdom, and so forth. So, I will bring more information in the future about this and other subjects pertaining to what we can call Eurasian paranormal. I ask that you please support my research, and I thank those who have done so. You can see the links in my description to this video. Please subscribe to my channel and let others know. Thank you all.